This is a public service announcement. Arsenal did win at the weekend, and the season seems to be going in a good direction. But as a reminder, please only react to this with a firm handshake and a nod of the head. This is the ArsenalVision Post-Match Podcast. My name is Elliot Smith. You can block me on Twitter at Yankee Gunner. That's right. A firm handshake, maybe a nod of the head. You could give a smirk. I think a full smile would be more than is warranted. The important thing here is that there are obviously rules about how much you should celebrate a victory. And we got to be careful to stay within the line. I'm kidding. Fuck those people. No, celebrate. Take your shirt off. Take your pants off. Run around. Show off, maybe the fact that you've been using the lawnmower. Do what you got to do. The point is, we won. It was tense. And I have to tell you, I am still probably dealing with some of the post-traumatic stress from the last 10 minutes or so. The irony is actually that it wasn't like it was a full rearguard action. The pressure wasn't fully on us. But yeah, it was a tense affair, and we did come out victorious. And I think now it is a case of who blinks first, because Liverpool just need to do their job. Manchester City, as we know, Pep is a fraud. He did not do his job. Liverpool, I trust you. Do your job. Because if that happens, and I don't want to necessarily bring up what might happen when we play Leeds at the Emirates, but we could be approaching a pivotal point in the season. Now, a couple of quick things, and then we're going to get right into the meat of this. Firstly, we are still asking if you would be so kind just to leave us a review on the player of your choice, whether that's the Apple player, the Spotify, or whatever it is. I have been told that algorithmically that helps the podcast. I don't know what that means, but that's what I've been told. And so many of you have emailed your great reviews or direct message them. However you send them to me, DM, email, into the Discord, wherever it is, you go into the drawing for free year of Patreon. So thank you for doing that. As you can maybe tell, I'm under the weather, dealing with a very popular illness that most of you have probably read about in the last few years. So just hanging in there. So thanks for putting up with me on that front. Let's get into the Arsenal discussion. And that starts by introducing Paul. You can find him on Twitter at Paz My Pants. Hello, Paz.
Woohoo!
And Clive, you can find him on Twitter at Clive PFC. Hello, Clive.
Hello.
Clive, I want to start with you because you got a chance to have the away day experience. And it's funny. I was listening to the Arscast because that is what I call preparation for this podcast. And James and Andrew are both saying that actually the tension when you're at the ground is probably less than when you're watching on TV. And I get that, right? Because when I'm at the ground, I'm focused on the drinks and the singing and the atmosphere, and you're sort of part of the whole event that's taking place. And then when you're just sort of in the more antiseptic environment of your home, watching on TV, you're so laser focused on just getting over the line. But there's really, really a special connection between the fans and the players right now, and the away support was great again. So I'm curious, I believe it's your first away day of the season. What was the experience like for you, and how you connected with the tension, the anxiety, and the euphoria of the final whistle?
Well, firstly, thanks to Akil and Tim for getting me the tickets to get in there. I took my son to his first away game, so that was really, really good. Secondly, I didn't really have too much to drink before the game, even though Akil tried
it's a shame, I'm sorry.
Even though he tried to get me into a pub at 12 o'clock, like he was. Right? So basically, what I noticed immediately is that lots of drinks are taken with the away crowd. And I mean lots. And there are no nerves, only focused support. I mean, the singing before the game was just non-stop. It just went on and on and on. And I was outside the ground probably an hour and 20 before kickoff. And it was going right then, So I was really taken aback by how happy everybody was. And that really struck me. Met some people, listened to the podcast, and got some really nice things said, and about how we talk about the game and primarily support the club. Even though we critique now and again, we're still supporters, and they can tell that. And that when you meet the guys who really are supporters, really, really, I mean, every week, home and away, there's like a community there. To get that sort of feedback was really quite nice, because we're all fans, really, aren't we? So that was cool. And then the singing and the connection. Do I feel it more away than at home? Probably similar, but it's just more intense, much more intense. And I said to you earlier, this is not my first rodeo, right? I've been around, I've done home and away many, many times. And I'm trying to work out why I feel this way about this group and about this team. And I don't know why. I don't know what's going on with me. Is it me? Is it my age? I don't know what's happening. But there's an investment that's just around the corner emotionally with me that I'm finding difficult to explain. And I don't think I'm alone with that. I sense we're about to explode. It's on the edge. It could go either way. But if it goes the right way, I don't know what I'm going to do myself, honestly. And I don't know. I think it could be amazing. And I think, I'm not sure why that is. Maybe you guys can help me articulate that. But there is a feeling of this could happen and it feels right to happen. And if it does happen, the next phase could be even more exciting. And I think people are really starting to like Arsenal football players and the club and the manager. And I think they're starting to like it a lot. And because of that, they're starting to like each other almost. There's a unity amongst the fan base, which is incredible. I'm telling you, mate, I've been many places where you're hugging strangers, but not hugging strangers from 4 rows back and 4 rows forward. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, it literally is a family thing going on there. And I was surprised, and I'm not a child, I've done this before, but I was really taken aback, and I just raised my hat to all of them that were at that game.
Yeah, it was, I mean, you can tell even without being there, the intensity, the support going on, and just, there's no question that the players have connected with it too. I mean, you see the way they come over to the away fans at full time, or even the home fans at full time, and really want to soak it up and soak up the chants. And I think that they're feeding off it. These are young players, a lot of them. And so I think it means something to them. Paul, the funny thing is, it's been a couple of seasons since our league fixtures this late in the season mattered a lot. I'm trying to think of the lot. I mean, it was probably the Emery run-in. And by this point, had we crapped it away? Probably not quite yet. But we also had a European final that season. But so I kind of forgot how anxiety-inducing it is when everything rises and falls with a goal going in or not going in this late in the season. And the intensity is something that I've missed, but it's something that, I probably could live without at times. The interesting thing about this game, though, is the last 2 games, the Chelsea and United games, were chaotic, but I think they were sort of high-level games in some ways. I mean, there was a lot of messy, poor play, but there was also a lot of dynamic play. This was, I think, just a bad, low-quality game at times. It was messy, but without the sort of excitement of the previous 2. Passes going astray, neither team really coming to grips. So I think you had a West Ham team that was a little stronger than we would have expected, and screw David Moyes and Declan Rice and all of them, and I hope they lose 10-0 to Frankfurt on Thursday. But we were a bit tentative. They were, understandably, maybe not as focused on the game. And I think at least in the first half, what it produced was kind of a low-quality football game. I mean, how do you explain the way we approached the start of the game? Because we were playing a mid-block. We weren't really pressing. We didn't really get the toothpaste up the tube in your parlance. So what's your take on just what was, I think, kind of an ugly game of football to start with?
Yeah, football, eh? So would this not be the definition of a trap game?
I mean, it's tough, right? Because to me, the definition of a trap game is the Leeds game, right? It's the home game against a team you're supposed to beat, wedged between a run of 3 difficult games and the derby. So the Leeds game would be the trap game for me, but your mileage may vary there.
Yeah, no, this one to me felt like a good candidate, right? Because West Ham...
Because they don't care?
Yeah, they're not supposed to care. They're not supposed to be good. They weren't.
Right, yeah.
They played a fuller strength side, but not quite full enough. It was like one of those, I don't know how good they're going to be. Let's be slightly less crap than them. With us, how far ahead do we lean into this game? How much do we expose ourselves? Look, it was really, it wasn't by plan. It wasn't by anything. I'm pretty sure the plan was to play good football, to push, to press, to make runs, for people to drop into spaces. I also think West Ham are actually pretty good at clogging things up. This game suited them. They made sure that they were not easy to play against, that they could conserve a little energy. So they did their part. They also played poorly with the ball, which can be infectious to our play. There's no real rationale. Having had another good look at it, there's no great rationale. There's no analysis that explains to me why both sides just could not pass the ball to each other. I think it's going to be one of those games you write off The second half was more interesting from an analysis standpoint because we were hitting them on the counter. We looked like we're turning into a very, very good counter-attacking team, which is nice. Unlike almost everybody else, I was not particularly relatively nervous given the stakes once we went that goal up and we started sitting back. I just didn't. It felt like control. And that, to me, along with everything Clive's talking about, something's different with this group this season. You know, the fans are different. You just need to change a critical proportion of the fans for that to be different. The relationship with the team's all different. And then talking about this particular game, like there were probably 4 or 5 non-starters playing for us, which doesn't help. Still doesn't explain it, but like that's a lot. You get into kind of a tipping point in terms of number of players who don't normally play these games, aren't normally starters, or passing to people who aren't the normal people. They're there. But overall, the one thing I'll take away from this game was once we got that second goal, Gabriel Martinelli floating it into the other Gabriel. That was a quality assist, a quality moment. There were a few quality moments. And then, like, we looked really good. Like, the pundits didn't think much of us at halftime. They thought a lot of us at the end of the game because of that level of control, because of the way we played through Eddie, played out. We looked very good once we went up. That's about the only thing. You could throw away the rest of this game as like, I don't know what that was, and I don't want to think about it too much. It might contaminate my thinking, get in the water and mess things up. It was just low quality, and it felt trap game-ish, even if it's not the perfect definition of one.
I think, look, everything is relative in terms of what you're trying to accomplish. And right now, we're trying to get over the line with a lot of key players missing and a lot of players starting games that wouldn't have been in the plan. I mean, no Benjamin White, so holding us to start. He did well and scored, obviously. No Thomas Partey, so El Nenny's come in. And the plan probably would have been for Sambi, but he didn't maybe look ready, so it's El Nenny. And no Tierney, so it's Nuno. And, you look at the team that we're putting out there right now, and it just needs to get 3 points any way it can. Now, I look at the second half and the way we played, and like, would I like us to have more possession, territory control? I mean, of course, in my sort of idealistic view of how you play football, I would prefer to do that. But I have to agree that we didn't look like we were under a particularly immense amount of pressure. I mean, this game was 0.9 to 0.6 on expected goals. And, I'm not using that as a stick to beat us in terms of what we didn't create, but more to make the point that West Ham, for all the nerves we may have felt, didn't really participate in this game as an attacking force that much. Clive, the first half did have some moments, though, that I want to walk through with you, sort of one by one, because I think, they were important moments. And like, the first thing I wanted to just ask you is like, the way we approached this game, we seemed very willing to sit in more of a mid block to try to win the ball back in the middle of the pitch instead of trying to win the ball back higher up the pitch. And I sort of wonder if that decision, if it was a decision, is based on the fact that you lose Ben White and you lose Tierney and you have a reconfigured back line, and suddenly your confidence in pushing everybody up the pitch a little more and having to defend in space isn't as high. So you say, you know what, let's be a little more considered in how we do this, sit in a mid block and protect our defenders a little more, especially given the frailty we saw in our defense in the last 2 games. So do you have a sense of whether we were intending to be more of a mid block and if that might have been why?
Well, I didn't sense that in the ground. I sensed what I sensed for 2 teams lightly jabbing each other on the chin. That's what I sensed.
Tickle fight.
And just jabbing, get a bit excited. Not too excited because Arsenal had a couple of roller coaster games. We don't want roller coasters anymore. And I just sensed that the game was played in the middle of the pitch and they were happy going around and just moving it forward every now and again, and then they would lose it. A bit bad pass, bad completion, and they were a little grown, and then we'd do exactly the same, and they would do it. And I just thought we were really conscious of our distances, and that's what I sort of got from the game. And it looked like a game that was quite compressed in the middle zone. And I'm all right with that, really. They were looking for a sort of force control and just looking to make sure that we didn't. I mean, the Man United game was pretty traumatic, right? And we were at home. We can't deal with that away. We can't. We need to hold on to our destiny as such by controlling the game. But every time we did try to get some combinations going, we gave it away, and it's from the reliable people. That's when the nerves came in, really. When I see Xhaka giving the ball away as much as he did, that's a concern for me, because
Odegaard did a few times as well.
Yeah, exactly. He's just half a yard off, and you're sort of watching it, and that's where the nerves came from. And I think it's quite interesting as well. I had this little theory, right? So there was lots of nerves around in the ground, but there were more nerves around certain people. So there's more nerves around Nuno, for example, and when certain players who I think's got credit in the bank, when they make the same mistakes, it's like it's okay. It's still a bit of nerves, but it's okay. When there are people that don't have the credit in the bank yet, or building their credit, then it becomes a bit more of a trauma, And I think that's something that we don't quite get when we are doing our thing on the microphone and watching on TV. That the nerves really do have an impact to how the crowd react. And there's one thing at the end when Sambi had a shot over the bar right towards the end, and there was a guy behind me going, "Oh my God, that's so dumb, that's so stupid, that's why are you doing that?" And he was really angry with him. But he wasn't really angry with him. He was angry there was 2 minutes ago and he thought he should have took it to the corner. Do you know what I mean? And this is where the emotions almost overcome your analysis or how you're looking at the game. And when the game ended, he said to me, "Sorry for shouting that Sambi in your ear." and we all hugging each other. And it's like, and I think that happens a little bit into Nuno, for example. I watched a bit of the game second half again today, and I thought he was okay second half, but in the first half, mate, he was getting it. People are worried about him because they can see the narrative around him, and they're wondering if he's at the right level. And it's such an
What are your thoughts on his culpability for the goal?
On the goal, there's a switch play, right? So Rice has got the ball, no pressure on the ball. You're taught as a defender, there's no pressure on the ball. Make sure you start to drop, right? So as soon as he drops his head and cocks his leg back, you start to drop. So I looked at it today. So if you're the fullback, you look inside. Is your centre back? Has he got someone to mark? No. Okay, so you haven't got to cover around your centre back because there's no one to mark. So as he drops his leg, Rice, to go out wide, you should be going out there to get it off his first touch. So off his first touch, he can't get his head up and look, and he got over there a bit late. And then they crossed it back in, and because he did it early, really early, Soufal, it was one touch hit. We didn't get a chance to reshape in the middle and react, and he found Bowen perfectly. He popped it up, bounced it, and he voted it in deflection, right? And Gabriel couldn't get close enough. When you don't get close enough holding style, you don't get the blocking, right? So it goes in. I think so. The mistake was multiple. I thought it was a good move by West Ham. It sort of worked, and they caught us out, But that's an example of inexperience, shall we say, in the fullback slot. But there was something else in the game, lads. What was happening was Fornals and Soufal, who plays right back, and Bowen were all sort of hanging towards that left. And it was causing Martinelli and Nuno a problem. So what was happening was Martinelli was trying to take Soufal, and Nuno was trying to take Fornals on the inside to keep our back four narrow. So you don't split your back four. So your winger comes back and he takes the widest guy. And on this case, Martinelli was inside and he wasn't on the outside. So Nuno jogs out there Bob Marley style, where you need to get out there, really press his touch. But you're thinking, well, that's not my man. I'll just get out there and try and do my bit. That's the stuff you can coach. Do you know what I mean? You really can. You can coach it from get your shoulders on the angle so you can go out there. So but that's the stuff you can coach. And I felt in the first half we were struggling with those two. We were struggling, and how they were rotating. And they weren't doing much, but just enough to make me nervous. And he was right in front of me so I could see it. Do you know what I mean? And so that was the problem on that goal, Elliot, to summarize.
Yeah. And I mean, the interesting thing about that goal is I look at my notes from the game and I have Odegaard bad giveaway, Eddie bad giveaway, Nuno bad giveaway, Bowen goal right at halftime. And I just think that, possessions are important, right? And as you build a team, step one is just be able to keep the ball. Step two is then have players who can not only keep the ball, but receive it on the half turn, look up, make a progressive pass, or carry the ball past a defender, all the stuff that Thomas Partey was doing for us. And I just think that if you give possession away too many times, eventually, you're going to pay for that. And while I don't think we were ever under too much pressure defensively in this game, I thought the way we managed that particular moment, because we had scored, we were leading, halftime is imminent. And I just thought it showed a little lack of situational awareness. Look, I know that our style of play is keep the ball, play back to front. But there are times we have to realize this is a time to get the ball away from your goal. And I thought the Odegaard giveaway, the Eddie giveaway, and the Nuno giveaway, all right in that one little cluster of moments before the Bowen goal right at halftime, put us under pressure we didn't need to be put under. At a really critical moment in the game where we can get to halftime with the lead and then figure out how you want to approach the second half. So I thought that was poor. Let's talk about the good stuff in the first half, though, Paul, which is the goal. And it comes first from Eddie shooting. The shot's tipped wide around the corner, but it comes after a West Ham giveaway. It's one of the rare moments where we did kind of get the ball high up the pitch. They pretty much just gave it to us. Eddie runs onto it, shoots, when there may have been other chances, but he still forces the corner. Holding gets the goal. And, in general, I just think we do look like a team that is competent in set pieces, both defensively and in attack right now. And that is such an improvement on where we've been in prior seasons, where forget the vulnerability defensively, but just corner kicks were just a chance for us to turn over possession of the opposite side. So I thought that was great. Do you have any thoughts on, the build up leading to the corner and then the goal itself?
So Eddie does really well, right? He when you look at his starting position with the ball, he's basically got a couple of defenders or midfielders in defensive positions in a position to stop him, another centre back who can step up. And he just kind of floats his way between them with a meandering run, really nice. And we saw a lot of that in the second half. His movement around players, his sense of when to cut one way versus another, it's probably the strongest part of his game. And when you think we have him down as, oh, well, he's a fox in the box, he's just a 6-yard box guy who'll get on the end of something. He showed that other side to his game. I think he's done it in a couple of games now, where if he picks it up a little deeper, he creates space and opportunity for himself and for others. He had a lot of those well-placed curving shots on goal. Here's my one question on Eddie. I know this isn't quite the nature of the question, but have we ever seen him truly leather it? I wonder if he has the full power that a striker needs to lure a ball.
Unfortunately, we saw him leather it. Was that United where he slipped in by Odegaard with the back heel and then he goes for power instead of placement?
Yeah, but that's pretty close to goal, right? So it looks...
Yeah, you mean instead of his usual finish is the passing, try to passing it.
Yeah, but he has
opening his foot and passing it in the far corner.
Yeah, and he has 4 or 5 of those shots from distance in this, and I remember that shot he hits off the bar, that against Chelsea, where it's kind of a bit of a looper. It's not like Martinelli catches one late on in this game and it's off target, but holy shit, the power. So this is the one, Eddie's been great last couple of games, and we're all talking him up and we're getting excited about him. That's my one question with him. But what he does have is really nice placements. All of those shots are on target or on and about target or just past the post. And it forces the corner here. It keeps the pressure on, and there's a lot to be said for that. I think throughout the game, his shots are clean, nice, good shape to them. He shapes up nicely from the edge of the box or outside of the box, but it forces this corner. Saka with a beautiful delivery right on the noggin. The guys all have their assignments. We're very organized. They have Fornals. The matchups suit us. The Fornals is against Holding. He muscles his man nice and early so that there's no question of a foul by the time the ball comes in. Gets his noggin on it. First goal for us, for the club, in his 6 years as a Premier League player. And the first of 2 from our centre backs in this game, and in the end, the goals all came down in some form or other to set pieces or play after set pieces. Certainly for us, and it's a good way to beat West Ham. You got to find different ways to win, and sometimes you will it. Sometimes it's set pieces. We've been very, very good defensively, and the best teams tend to be good, get their fair share of set piece goals going the other way, and we did very, very nicely in this. And we might well have struggled to do it any other way in this game.
Look, being good at set pieces is one of the clearest things you can see on a pitch of a team being well coached, because it's a marginal gain that you can make by working on it. Like, set pieces are extremely predictable in terms of whether you're good at them or whether you're not. And some teams are, I mean, look at Leicester. They're dreadful at defending set pieces, right? Like, if you're well coached on set pieces, you can get better at them. They are a thing you can improve on purely on coaching. You don't need to have, Thierry Henry. You don't need to have Virgil van Dijk. You can just be better at them. And we are. And I think we deserve credit, and we should give credit for that. I think we should also point out that right after we score, oh, by the way, you got to love the Aaron Ramsdale line at full time when asked about Rob Holding scoring his first Premier League goal. He says, it only took him 6 years and a new hairline. Got to love it. The banter between the lads. So the interesting thing is then there was the Ramsdale save, and like Ramsdale didn't have a lot of work to do in this game, and we've been a little critical of him for some shaky play. He absolutely deserves credit for what I think is not getting enough attention for that insane save that he makes on the corner kick right after we scored. Clive, do you remember the one I'm talking about? They take a corner and it comes in at pace, bullet on him, but like kind of behind him. It's going to go in under the bar.
I thought it hit the bar. It comes in so hard and he gets such a good hand on it. I thought it had hit the bar.
Yeah. Clive, I mean, that is a brilliant save, and for a guy who we've maybe been a little critical of, he deserves credit for that, because that was incredible reflexes.
Yeah, a flashing save from Declan Rice header. So, and it was just, I don't know how he read it. It was so close to him, and he got up and he got really, really horizontal quickly and early and flicked it over the bar. And then you see the difference between pros and us lot. There's a huge difference, lads. That's all I'm saying. I mean, it was shocking stuff. I mean, everyone was just clapping, mouth open stuff, right? It's right in front of us. So, and very important, we didn't need to concede at that point. So, it's all good. He's finally
we had
himself.
That lined up for 2 minutes later.
Yeah. I mean, it is crazy how we can't just hold on to a lead and consolidate for a bit, but whatever.
Thanks, Paul, for that. Yeah, at the time it definitely felt, we can't concede. But yeah, I think he is rediscovering himself, and people are looking at him and saying, oh, he's like Pickford, he's too demonstrative and all the rest of it. And Arsenal fans know that's just who he is. And when I see him getting chippy and having to go at people and shouting, I actually think, now you're getting back to form. Because when he sort of lost a bit of form, he was a bit quieter. I think he's somebody that knows when he's on it and he gives it. And when he's not quite on it, he becomes more insular. So when I see him start giving it, I think, you fancy yourself, you're back where you want to be. So keep doing it and don't let those TalkSport pundits tell you otherwise.
Yeah, he needs to play with that kind of fire. And Clive, I want to talk a little bit about Eddie. There's a lot from the second half I want to get to, and I think there's some players who deserve a little bit more individual focus. But let's talk about Nketiah, because that's sort of the big talking point right now. And like, one of the things that I do sometimes when I'm just by myself is I'll have debates in my own head with myself. And it's funny, right? Because like sometimes you can come across as being very opinionated, but I find myself torn in multiple directions on how to analyze this. Because firstly, I do wonder to some extent if Lacazette had hit such a nadir in the way he was playing, such a low point in terms of not making passes, not contributing in link up, not getting shots, that any striker doing a bit of striker stuff was going to look like an oasis in the desert to us. I think in the first half, Eddie Nketiah was playing the Lacazette role, TM, was dropping into midfield, trying to link play. And I think there were a lot of moments in the first half where when he dropped deep, his control wasn't right and he gave it away, or the pass was sloppy and he was not, in my opinion, really very effective in that role. But I do think Eddie Nketiah is one of these guys that once you get him turned and pointed towards goal, you see what makes him special. He's direct, he's fast, he's strong, and you get him in or around that box, he gets his shots off, which is something that we have not had. And so in the second half, when, especially when we were playing with a lead, and he could just be our entire counterattack. I mean, there were multiple times when the ball was kicked long to him, and there was no support from Martinelli, no support from Saka, on his own, did it all by himself, beat guys, got shots off. When he's pointed at goal and he can just look straight forward and do his thing. I think you see his skill set. And so I thought it was a mixed game. And I know a lot of people feel very, very strongly that it was a great game. And I can't say that you're wrong. I just think that we saw the strengths and weaknesses of the player within the same game, which is that I don't think necessarily the first half link-up play was very good, but the second half, obviously, he got a chance to shine. And the only thing missing is, of course, the finish. And I think for a lot of people looking at what our plans should be for striker in the future would say, maybe he doesn't have the goals in him ultimately that we're going to want. And obviously, we don't need to talk about transfers and what to do with Eddie long-term right now. But I'm curious if you saw it the same way, Clive, a mixed performance with a first half that had limitations and a second half that was brilliant, or maybe you're more just bullish on the performance overall.
Yeah, it was mixed, but he wasn't the only one that had a mixed performance. Odegaard, Xhaka.
I don't think anybody had a purely great performance. Maybe Tommy aside, maybe.
So if you're looking at it from a pure execution point of view, it was mixed. But within the context of this game, with the lead up with Spurs winning, the fact that no one in the team was playing really, really well, the fact that we played a little bit of fear and we were trying to keep our distances tight, we weren't expanding, we weren't being very direct. In the context of this game, he was excellent. He was exactly what we required on the day for the period we need to see out. And that's how I look at the performance sometimes. It's not what the players does, it's the timing of when they do it. If you look at Xhaka's performance against Manchester United, I thought it was tremendous. There's been better midfield performances, but we needed it at that time. We were nervous, we were getting done, and he stepped up. He helps cover our left back. He gets a banging shot. He's dictating the play. That's when you judge people. In adversity, when it's going a little bit wrong, who's going to step up? And so, yeah, Eddie's got a few lumpy touches. But when we were just starting to think, are we going to see his game out? He turned into some sort of train. I mean, literally was moving side to side, dropping off, crashing it, smashing people, getting in people's faces. He got better and better and better. And he made my Sunday. Right, just by that performance alone. Now, if you want to critique him, so let's talk about him technically, right? And this is maybe leads to what Paul's saying here about his shooting. So you could query, if you want to talk about what he does, right? Let's go for it, right? He posts really well, actually, as well as Lacazette. He does 3 different posts. He posts flat, straight, facing his own goal, shoulder square. He likes to post up, dragging the ball to his left-hand side. So he dummies right and takes it on the half turn, comes left and sweeps it out to the right wing or just turns and runs. Right? So he does the half turn post, which keeps people guessing. And sometimes he shows short and spins in behind. Right? So he's got 3 different moves and he can execute on all of them. So if he spins in behind, he's got the pace to catch it. If he goes on a half turn, he's got the pace to carry it. He's got the ability on the ball to carry it. And he can post up and he's smart enough. He's as good as a Lacazette and he's as good as a Aubameyang at the post-up moves and keeping the link play going. So that's the positives, right? The negatives, right? This is my issue with him and has been for a while. And this may be something that needs to come with coaching. So if you watch his shooting, I want you to watch his standing foot. His standing foot is too far away from the ball, distance-wise. And that's why he seems to be kicking around the ball. And that's why he chooses the placing option. Now, when you get power, your standing foot is slightly ahead of the ball, it's tight to your body, you have a tight core, and you have a rock-hard ankle, you lock your ankle, you bang your shots. That's what a good power shooter does. That's what Martinelli does. That's what the good shooters, they whip it from the side, they power, but it's all to do with their standing foot position. I promise you now, go and watch the videos again. When he misses his shots, I want you to watch his standing foot, the distance it is away from the ball. It's something I've been looking at for a little while, and it's concerning me, and there are misses and there are misses. Now, I think he has a tendency to want to take the early shot. Now, the early shot is the one that beats the keeper. Right? They're the ones that do it. So I always give him a break when he's trying to do it because I know what he's trying to do. You think, if I take it now, even though I'm not set, he's got a chance of going in. He bounces it in. He does all sorts to get it at that goal. But there's also a technical issue that sometimes when he's not in shape, his shots can be almost slightly telegraphed. And these keepers, you've got to fool them. They can cover the goal. I mean, they're amazing, these athletes. You've got to literally give them the eyes and go to the other corner. And where he is in his development and experience and assurance, he's telegraphing a few of them too much. But I can't really critique him given what he did to Kurt Zuma. Didn't look quite fit to me. But what he did to him, moving him laterally and taking for runs down the side. Was it 6 shots on target? Was that the right
just
number?
Six shots, not on target, but yeah,
6 shots. 6 shots.
To be fair, 5 of them may have been on target. I think.
Yeah, I'm here for that. Do you see what I mean? I'm here for that. And one of the shots led to the corner on the first goal. The one he held past the post. I mean, that was minimum. That he deserved that moment. But that's the stuff he's got to do to convince people. That's the stuff he's got to do. Now, there's a decision to be made about him. Personally, I'm deferring that discussion in my own mind.
Yeah, let's defer that because it's a big one, and I want to give it its due.
Yes,
probably not right now. Yeah.
All right, mate. I totally understand. I'm deferring it in my own mind anyway because I don't care. I only care about the next games that are upcoming, and we need him playing like this. We really, really do because he creates problems for other people, and he gives room to other players who can do things. And I think he's a very, very important player, whether it be for an hour. I don't care. He's very important, and he's a guy with a shirt, and he absolutely deserves it at this moment in time. And these little technical bits, I almost don't care about them. I just care about if he plays with that level of desire and thoughtfulness and lack of fear to really get around his man and give him a hard time. That's only going to mean good things for Arsenal Football Club. That's all I'm concerned about.
And it's not just willingness to run, is it, Clive? It's all those runs were really clever. How he pulled a defender with him, when he made his moves, when he cut across people. I mean, it wasn't just, young guy willing to run fast.
That one where El Neni finds him in the second half. It's a brilliant pass from El Neni, which, credit to him because we don't think of that. But that run is beautiful across the defender, well timed. It's perfect.
So this is something I see at the level I'm at, and I've learned it from watching strikers. And as El Neni is coming out on the right side, he naturally goes furthest away from him, and that's really clever. That's to really get into the blind side. And I don't know. That's a striker thing. That's not something in my coaching head. But I've seen it a few times. So it's not an accident what he did there. It's not an accident. He's just not running about. He's doing that on purpose to get onto that side, furthest away from the ball carrier, on the blind side of the defender, so he can chop it, come back on his strong foot and finish. And fair play to him. He deserved that goal. But those details, those fine details, are the reason why we're probably going to end up going into the market because we need someone to finish that shot. I don't know if you saw Son's goals at the weekend.
Well, yeah, I mean he's unfortunately a hell of a vein of form right now.
And once he chopped inside on his wrong foot, he puts it in top corner. And this is what we need to do. And it's not a critique. It's just like, where are we going to go? I want 20 points extra. I'm sure you guys do. That's where we're heading. How are we going to get there? Are we going to get there by... We have to get there by lifting the quality. Now, can we develop that quality? I don't know. But I will say yesterday, I was singing his name and I tell you, and apologising on the instant reaction because he put in a performance that was required.
Are you kidding me? It was brilliant. Yeah,
for the scenario.
I think, unfortunately, because we are inclined to want to love our players or hate our players for some reason, that we wind up deciding they're brilliant or they suck. And I can look at that Eddie performance and think he gave us something we absolutely needed to get through that game, and I don't think we get through that game without him. I can also look at a first half where there were giveaways that hurt us. There was linking play that didn't come off. There was a snapshot in the penalty box. He got the ball in the right channel in the box, totally unmarked, with our Arsenal players in the box supporting him, and took a snapshot early that was not well taken. He then in the second half comes alive running at goal and gives us the outlet that we haven't had in so long that helps us win this game. And it's okay for things to be a little bit of a mixed bag. They don't have to just be amazing or crap. And right now, he's giving us something Lacazette couldn't give us, and it's helping us get through this period, and we are lucky to have it. Whether or not it's the full bag of tricks, I don't think anybody would say it's the full bag of tricks, but for right now, that's not the key. The key is to get through it. You could say, for example, Nicola Pepe is probably a better shooter, but he doesn't have the full bag of tricks either, and so he doesn't play. So, it's all a little bit about what what positives you bring to the pitch that a manager wants to see in the team, and what negatives you have that can be mitigated that a manager can live with. And Eddie is clearly getting that balance right now for Mikel, and it's working out for us. I want to move on, but Paul, I don't want to freeze you out of the Eddie thing. So real quick, the other thing that I loved about Eddie is there's a personality to the way he was playing.
Yeah.
You know, there's times when Arsenal get accused of being meek, and we're a young team, and you can understand how that could happen. And like, we've also seen times when Arsenal do try to stand up for themselves or do try to show a bit of steel that it crosses the line. I think Nketiah does really well when Declan Rice seems determined to A, waste time for his team trying to win the game, B, pick a fight with a guy he's known since he was 9 years old. I have no idea what was going on there. I saw a hilarious tweet about it. Like, if you look at the video, he's like, Rice is saying something like, "Who the F are you?" or something like that. And like, they've known each other forever. He knows exactly who he is. Like, I thought Nketiah got in their heads, had the right combativeness at the level you need to be locked in, to be a pest, but not to cross the line. And that steel, that metal that we're going to need to get through this run, I think he got the balance just right.
Yeah, I think Eddie has striker's mind. Like, you can have the skills, you can have the ability, but he's got the mentality of a striker. And there's the good and the bad side to it. Sometimes you see his body language and it seems to be a bit too much about him, but that's kind of how strikers are. Because when the ball comes to them in that moment, in that pocket, they need to be thinking they're the guy, they're the man. We've seen some of the downside of that in other games. In this game, look, it really played to our advantage because when he got the ball in the spotlight, he did what he needed to do. He was cool, calm. There's a poetry and an art and a beauty about his movement. I've like those people who coo about Eddie and always have. I think that's the thing that really moves them. Why he's not just. There's so little evidence to go on. Why do people get excited about Eddie? There is a real kind of beauty about his play, but he has that striker's mind, and there's a lot of history between Rice, most of which we don't know. I think Rice thinks he's top dog, that they've had history together, and who is this young pipsqueak? He knows who he is. They were in the England setup together. They came up together. I suspect Rice was maybe more ahead, more senior, and saw this as disrespect, impudence, and Eddie, cool and collected like his character on The Wire, knew exactly what he was doing, knew how to handle himself, knew that not saying anything was the real needle here. He'd mutter a couple of things. Rice he'd lost his fucking mind. And like
I don't know what was going on there.
Yeah. And Eddie had him, and Eddie slowly roasted him. And it was lovely to see, and it cost them time. It cost them the opportunity to get that goal. He kind of turned him on a spit there. With just a little bit, just a word, just a look was enough to send Rice off. And like Eddie's got something. He's just like your Chuba Akpoms, other guys who've had skills and abilities coming through. Eddie mentally has something. He's going to have a career. Where he has it, how high, he's going to have a good career. I just don't know if he'll have a great career, but that's the conversation for another time. I think he might, by the way.
I think there are sort of three components to being an elite footballer at the Premier League level. One is having the physical tools, the actual raw athleticism without which you cannot do it. The other is having the mentality, literally the mental fortitude to be able to be as focused and committed and determined as it takes to compete at that level, which not everybody has.
And to be cold when others are hot. Yeah.
And then the other one is the technical skill. And I think in terms of physical attributes, Eddie has it. I think in terms of mentality, he has it. Whether the technical skill is quite at that top level, that'd be my question. Clive, why don't you add on Declan Rice real quick? Because I want to get to some of the other moments in the second half that are worth talking about before we look ahead a bit.
Yeah, I think you're right about Eddie. The technical side is an interesting one. I think it comes more when he feels relaxed and when he feels comfortable at the level. You watch him playing in under 21s, you could say it's a lower level, but mate, he knows when he feels like he's the boss, he plays like it. You know, and I think he's maybe starting to feel more comfortable with us and realising that, hey, I've got a chance here. And he's given it some. Whatever happens, he's going to get a bigger contract here, whether he stays or wherever he goes. So that'll take care of itself. On Declan Rice incident, and that was an interesting one, because Declan Rice, first time I've seen him live probably. I saw him when he came to Arsenal as a centre half in his early West Ham days, and I thought he was rubbish, right? And they moved him into centre midfield, and he got better, and he played for England. I thought he was okay. I thought England played him in the wrong position. I thought they played him as a 6. He should have been the 8, and Calvin Phillips behind him. But hey, there you go. That's my thing. But see him in this game, he is a big unit that bestrides the midfield. Really does. He gets it, he intercepts, he carries, he passes, he can run and shoot, he can switch play. I know this may not be news for everybody, but he's a player. And he's he's not quite that, but he's a player. And don't be silly, right? So, and he's a player. And I felt he wanted to impose himself on Eddie because he was bigger than him. And he was saying, look, mate, I'm the man here. This is my town. I run this area. And he tried to give it to Eddie and tried to shame him. And Eddie was just quite cool. And then the Arsenal player said, nah, we're not having that. We're not having that at all. And they came running over the hills. I mean, literally all arrived at the same time. And it got really tasty. And I love that. Don't leave one of your boys out there alone to be abused by the opposition. They all came piling in, and Mike Dean can't book them all. Right, so that's what you do. And I thought, I was really pleased to see that. Stand up for your mates. You make sure nothing happens to them. And Eddie was leading them a dance. And that was if you want confirmation of how well he was playing, well, that was the moment that told you he was the one they could not stop on the day.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the player that winds up the opposition is probably having a pretty good day. One of my favorite moments, not in football, but just in life, is when the new Manscaped promos drop. Because look, normally I just tell you whatever I have in my mind about Manscaped. But there's that moment when they send me the new copy. And I just always like to see what's going on in the minds of the copywriters over at Manscaped. So let me just give this to you because we are now into the summer copy, despite the fact that it is 39 degrees Fahrenheit, about 3 degrees Celsius where I live. Summer is here, is it? The sun is shining, shirts are off, and your balls are smooth. You heard that right. Your friends at Manscaped are here to make sure your beach balls are as smooth as Floridian sand. Yikes. In summer, you want to kill some cold beers and barbecue, not kill the vibe with pubes peeking out of your swim trunks. Oh my God. That's why Manscaped has a Performance Package 4.0 to keep the party in your pants looking crisp and refreshing all summer long. Dive headfirst into summer by joining 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get ready for hot guy summer. Or hot girl summer, come on. By going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with promo code ArsenalVision. So now I can tell you the performance package. Well, what do you get? You get the Lawnmower 4.0, which is the trimmer, the weed whacker, which does ears and nose hair, the crop preserver, which is a deodorant, the reviver toner, the boxers, the travel bag, all of it. All of that is in the performance package. You already know the lawnmower. It's got the skin safe technology, so you cut the hair and not your body. You know that it's got a long battery life. It's wet, dry, works in the shower. Go do it now. Get 20% off and free shipping with code ArsenalVision at manscaped.com. 20% off and free shipping with code ArsenalVision at manscaped.com. This is the summer to turn your package into the full package with Manscaped. Okay. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Now, there's no I in team, but there is an I in Indeed. And that's the hiring partner you need to build your team. When you're hiring, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours, literally hours, on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed's a powerful hiring partner that can help you do it all. With their instant match, over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job post, according to Indeed data. And I think that this is important, right? Because like the one thing I can say, you go on a job site, like as a person looking for a job, you don't know what to apply to. Are they going to like me? Am I going to get through their algorithm or whatever? But when you have the ability to invite someone to apply, like that tells them that you're interested in them. I think it produces a better result. And that's why Instant Match is 3 times more likely to get people to apply to your job than candidates who only see it in search, according to Indeed data. And remember, you only pay for applications that meet your must-have job requirements. Start hiring right now with a $75 job credit, sponsored job credit, to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/BlueWire. Indeed.com/BlueWire. Terms and conditions apply. Pay per qualified applicant. Not available for all users. Need to hire? You need Indeed. And as a final moment, arguably my favorite thing that we get to talk about is helping one another, being a better community for one another, loving one another, and treating each other with respect. And the best thing you can do is treat yourself with respect. You can do that by doing the work. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Life can be overwhelming, and many people are burned out without even knowing it. Symptoms can include a lack of motivation, feeling helpless or trapped, detachment, fatigue, and more. Burnout is, I think it's a condition that we don't talk about as a condition. It's just saying, oh, I'm tired, I'm worn out, I don't feel great. But that's normal. I'm supposed to feel that way because I work or I have kids or I have all these priorities in my life. Burnout is something you can work on. You can get help. I have done the therapy thing, and as someone who's done it, I cannot tell you how important it was and how helpful it was. BetterHelp has specialists too that you may not find in your area. BetterHelp is not like just a questionnaire or a group chat. It is licensed therapists helping you with specific problems through video chat, or if you don't want to do video, you don't have to do that as well. So BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. Arsenal Vision listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/vision. That's betterhelp.com/vision. Clive, is that enough of that?
Indeed. Yeah,
I did the therapy thing, and I got to tell you, it worked great for me. And I hope that people do not have any kind of stigma around that, because it is something that can make a big difference. So, Paul, I want to just discuss one thing that I think makes it hard to talk about a football game like this sometimes and performances, because this was a sloppy game at times. It wasn't a particularly beautiful game. And that means there's a lot of things not happening. We're really good at seeing something that happens and then analyzing what happened. What can be hard is analyzing things that didn't happen. So like ugly wins. And Arteta did call this an ugly win. I think he said in England, you have an expression, ugly win. We won ugly. And it's important, and you have to be able to do that. There's always the cliche, good teams, title winning teams, whatever, have the ability to win ugly. But you look at the stuff that you can see happening instead of the stuff that wasn't happening. What am I trying to say? Great question. Never very clear. What I'm trying to say, Paul, is that we struggled to keep the ball. We struggled to progress the ball. We struggled at times to get a measure of control. And I do think that the Xhaka Elneny midfield has helped us manage our way through these last few games. I thought we saw some limitations of it in this game, not in terms of what they were doing that you could see, but maybe in terms of the stuff that wasn't being done. And I think Elneny, who deserves huge credit for coming in and giving us a measure of solidity and reliability in midfield, at least in the first half, and for stretches of the second half where he kind of went missing, made it a little easier to shut us down. I think what's happening now is teams are saying, all right, we're gonna put two guys on Xhaka, we're gonna press the ball off Xhaka or keep him from getting it, and we're gonna ask a Rob Holding or a Gabriel or an Elneny to beat us. And that wasn't happening in this game. So I'm curious how you look at the dynamic of the midfield, because I'm not suggesting we should go back to Sambi. I mean, he has looked pretty green, and that's understandable. But I do think we saw in this game, maybe not in the moments that happened, but in the moments that didn't happen, if you see what I'm saying, a lack of that control and ball progression, because I'm not quite sure we're getting it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think in our instant reaction podcast, I was frustrated with our use of the ball and our technical quality on the ball, and I kind of needed to pick a fall guy, and I apologetically picked Elneny, and I think it's a little harsh. I think actually he was probably one of the cleaner players with the ball. He's generally kind of a safe option, but I just felt we needed more in this game. Well, it was obvious to everybody we needed more in this game, and we needed it from midfield. That's kind of Xhaka's job. He did some of it, but he was as untidy as anybody, especially in the first half. It's just low quality everywhere. And in a game like that, you want some technically clean leaders. Odegaard himself was a little messy with the ball, or a lot messy with the ball. I give him the excuse that Rice was watching him, he was watching Rice, and Rice certainly kept him quiet.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, and I think generally they knew where our danger side was with Odegaard and with Saka there, and they loaded up on that side with Rice and others. And so you can cut Odegaard a little bit of a break there. And of course, El Neni's on that side. So if it's getting a bit clogged up on that side, maybe it wasn't his side that really had the chance to open it up. But I think between him and, another fella on his side is Holding. We missed a lot with Ben White. That calm on the ball, the decision making, and neither El Neni nor Holding were actually our worst offenders, but like something was missing in this team. And when the water kind of goes down a bit and you start to see the rocks, we do lack a little midfield mobility. We lack a guy there who can break a line and dribble. You see it with Rice on the ball. Like in the same game, he cut us open 3 or 4 times and he's swinging the ball left and right. And Xhaka did a little bit of it, but not enough. El Neni in the second half has that eye-catching ball to Eddie.
Nketiah. Yeah. That was a brilliant pass. Yeah.
It was. So there were moments, but those moments kind of tell you what you didn't have in that first half. It's just nobody. On the other hand, we weren't pressing upfield. People weren't finding spaces and pockets. I do think part of the issue with this double pivot when we play Martinelli is like that's really the Smith Rowe role to drop in there and get Nuno up that wing. And I don't think Martinelli, Xhaka and Nuno works as well as Smith Rowe on that side, because it's Smith Rowe you want coming in there, picking up the ball. Martinelli was very quiet in the first half. I think it's all just a bit related. The left side wasn't clicking, so our right side was under more pressure where El Neni was. And, he can look at, he was clean enough, but he can be a bit ordinary. We know that. As long as the rest of the team's functioning, that's a rock that doesn't show under the water. He's not a dribbler on the ball. He's not going to ask questions of the other team. He's going to keep it ticking along. But they kind of clogged up that side. He had Holding behind him. So without Ben White, we had Tomiyasu. Tommy probably didn't have the legs to get forward. So I think in another game, a little more quality, Tommy able to get forward a little bit more. And maybe Smith Rowe, Nuno and Xhaka works better on the left because Nuno can bomb forward, Smith Rowe can rotate into that spot, and Xhaka can kind of cover the run when they bomb forward. Works just a little bit better than like Martinelli didn't really have a game. He had a great moment, and I think he did some good pressing around his assist just before and after. But and he was very useful when we sat in. He's very good at covering Nuno with his intense run backs in the second half. But I think a little more quality. Tommy a little fitter and making some runs on that side, and the ordinariness of the El Neni game is much less of an issue for us.
Yeah, Clive, I want to dig into this a little bit because this goes back to my point earlier about we're looking for heroes right now, and because we're winning, I think we're finding heroes in everyone on the pitch, and they deserve it, right? I said this in another podcast. If Mikel Arteta gets us over the line to the Champions League somehow with, El Neni and Nketiah and Cedric and Nuno Tavares and Rob Holding, that would be incredible. Not because those players are bad players. They're not, clearly, but because none of them are players that we necessarily thought could take us to that level. And now they're all playing at once and they're all being asked to do it. And I do think that El Neni is a great example of someone that I kind of want to give him the big slap on the back and thank him for the great work he's doing coming in and just sort of completing 90% of his passes and keeping us in games. But we are going to have games like Leeds at home and Everton at home, maybe less so Newcastle away, but to some extent where the onus will be on us to break down probably deeper defenses and be a little more proactive and creative. And so there is going to be a need to get a little more out of our game from midfield. I'm curious how you balance the fact that we are functional and getting it done right now versus maybe some of the qualities that have gone out of our game since the really, really good run, or does it not even matter because we're so close to the finish line? Yeah,
it doesn't matter. And the great thing about football is every game is different, right? And so I think there are games to really sort of analyze, and there are games that just happen and you win the moment, right? And you heard me use the term flow and moments. We're a team that when we're all happy, we flow through the pitch and we can all see what we do and we love it. We take it. The ball arrives just when we want it to. We take it right in stride, and we flowed through us out the other side, switch the point of attack, get our isolations, get our little pockets going, pop, 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 shot. We all love that. We clap, go and have a couple of drinks in the Tollington. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm in.
Yeah, it doesn't always, and then West Ham turn up, thinking, and they stand in the places where you want to play. And so we're forced to pass the ball to standing bodies, and the passes goes wrong. And that's it. I looked at the pitch and I thought Elneny was absolutely fine. He's one of the better ones, actually. And I'm looking at it thinking, that's just today's game. So how can we overcome it? They're trying to pick on Nuno's side. I thought Tomiyasu was absolutely fantastic, by the way, in one-on-ones. My goodness, he just sorts everything out. And I just look at the game and think, okay, that's today's game. It's crap. It's going to happen. You play 40-odd games a season. It's going to happen. Can we come out on the right side of it, right? And that's all that matters. Who's going to show up for the 10 minutes they need to show up in? That's literally it. That's literally it. And I think we naturally need, we like to look at the game and see if we can see any trends or analysis or anything like that. But there are some days you just need to be happy, right? You need to be happy. And I asked myself the question, yes, we critique these players sometimes, but I looked at the Spurs team sheet yesterday and I see players like Emerson Royale and Sessegnon and Højbjerg and Davis and Dyer. I'm thinking, why do they deserve to be where we want to be? And if I'm doing the team talk to our players, I'm saying, mate, don't let those players walk into the promised land over you because you're better than them. And, when you're comparing the effectiveness of an Elneny, then I compare him to Højbjerg and I say to myself, there's no difference there. Why does he deserve it?
It's a really fair point. Yeah.
And I think we just got to start looking at this with the right eyes. Now, come Sunday against Leeds, we might need a flowing performance. It's going to be an end-to-end. Leeds do tend to leave bigger spaces, not quite as reckless as they were before, but it's going to be high energy and it's going to need a level of flow. It's going to need a level of support. They won't be sitting in, and it will be about execution. It will be a much higher pace, much more energetic than yesterday's game, which was turgid, slow, sloppy, lumpy. West Ham went straight late on. Rob Holding looked fantastic because of straight balls to his head. Thank you very much. And it was just one of those ugly games that we just caught the end of. And when I was sitting there nervous, or standing there nervous, I didn't sit down because standing there nervous, I looked at the West Ham stands and they were all walking out with 5 minutes to go. And that told me, actually, we're in more control than we actually were, than I felt, sorry. And I often hear me say, the other team, they ran out of ideas. They sort of said, we can't get past this team, and West Ham fans could feel it. Do you know what I mean? And so, yeah, Elliot, just take this game. It isn't one for the annals. It isn't one for Scott's pass maps. It isn't one for Scott's numbers. I just had a look at them and they look pretty good. I don't know how he does that stuff so well. It's one for, we did it. Next one. We did it. Next one. Throw someone away. Next one is all that counts. Who's injured? Who's fit? Who needs a rest? Can we get Ben White's tight hamstring back for this game? Because I think we missed his assurance, even though we got something else. And Rob Holding, if Ben White's going to miss a game, this was the one to miss. Because that was a Rob Holding game and he was brilliant. He's blocking the first half. Oh my goodness, it's fantastic. And so, back to the squad, back to using the squad appropriately. If we're going to, and I think we go again against Leeds, and I think it could be massive weekend next weekend. Absolutely huge. And then dare we start to think? I mean,
no,
oh my God, dare we start to think? I'm struggling emotionally. I'm struggling to hold this down and to do what the players need to do, which is taking one game at a time. But that's where we
Clive,
are.
I'm going to tell you something. I think in the same way that towards the end of the season, your sort of micro focus on tactics and process goes out the window and it's all about results. Maybe the analysis needs to go out the window a little bit. Maybe the worrying about, can we be a little more progressive in midfield? Can we get someone, to step past his marker a little bit more? Can we can we get a center forward who does this instead of that? Like, maybe that has to go out the window because I find myself.
We need to go all soft factory.
I do. Well, I find myself like losing. It's funny, right? Because for 3/4 of the season, I think that I tend to be, more focused on the analytics and the process and,
Well, it probably makes
the harder
sense, doesn't it?
factors. Yeah, but by now, I'm as sucked into this as anyone. I want like Mohamed El Neni to sign a 6-year deal and Eddie Nketiah to start up front for us next season. And like, I'm buying in completely because these players are getting it done. And so I feel that there's some responsibility analytically to say like, all right, well, can we dig into this and find a better way? But maybe now's not the time for that. Maybe now is the time for just saying, pat him on the back, sing the songs, be completely wrapped up in what's happening and hope it continues. Now, in terms of it continuing, one thing that I hope continues, Paul, is the calls go our way. And the calls are kind of going our way, if we're being honest. I loved Bowen getting a yellow card for diving, and I'm sure there are some fans who think he deserved a yellow card for diving. I'm sort of the opinion that like that's a classic case of what do you want the player to do? Not have legs there? Because I don't know what else he's supposed to do. It's a risky decision from Ramsdale. It all came off in the end, so I'm happy with it. But like, it's not the first risky decision we've seen from him lately. What's your take on the Bowen Ramsdale incident?
I think we are a very, very lucky boy. Yep. I think Bowen had every right.
Paul, if there is any better indication that top four needs to be ours, it's things like Mike Dean giving us calls at the tail end of the season. Like, it's just crazy. Who would have guessed?
Isn't Mike Dean retiring? And
he is, and he's on like a record number of red cards. He had a chance to give another one there, but no.
And isn't this his way of saying, Arsenal, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I screwed you year in, year out. Here's a little something back, a little wink from me to say, I screwed you. I'm letting you off. Bowen should have hooked his leg around Ramsdale, and we would have been in all sorts of trouble. He jumps out of his way. He hurdles him. And even if he didn't, just looking at it from our side, it was nuts. But then back to the point of this is about narrative, soft fact. Like, I do actually think there's a tremendous amount of sense in being very, very analytical at the start of a season and very, very not analytical in the last 5 or 6 games, because at the end of the season, the team is what it is. They've got what they've got. They play the way they play. And like, that's it. It's like XG, like getting overly analytical about it in the early days kind of makes sense till you see the pattern, and then that's where you're at. And then soft factors can be a driver, but I think they're more a lagging factor. When things are good in your team, your soft factors start to look good. Confidence doesn't come from nothing, right? You're a fool if you're confident and you've got no competence ability.
Is that the Dunning-Kruger effect that we're discussing here?
Very possibly. Very confident fellow, Dunning-Kruger. Not a lot of people know that. But he was very competent. So, like, the reason...
By the way, that's a cognitive bias where people with low ability at a task overestimate their ability, says the best podcaster in the world. Go ahead.
Oh, you don't need to tell me you did. I just think it makes perfect sense to be very, very analytical early on, like XG is, to work out what your team is. And then late on, it's about execution, which is largely about softer factors, because you are who you are. You've established your patterns, your way of play, and it's about getting out there and doing it. So it is more about the did we or didn't we play our football. We know what our football is at this point. What was the question? Oh, the tackle. So yeah, back to the tackle. Look, I think here's a soft factors answer for why I think there's a reason the calls are going our way, because we look the part, right? We actually have a bit of confidence. People are expecting us to win games. It's not like the old narrative of you don't expect Arsenal to close out a game. I do. There was a reason I am less nervous now watching this team playing, is because I saw what I've expected. We see it time and time again. These guys closing out games against United, against Chelsea, against these lads. So, like, something has changed here, and I'm not surprised that maybe the sense of fragility about us. Sure, we look fragile every time we score a goal, but the other thing is we score first. So we didn't quite start as strong as we'd like to, but generally we start well, we press, we have a period of intensity, we get a goal, we establish ourselves as pole in the race, And that has a certain confidence, a certain swagger. Referees expect us to be leading and don't expect to have to give a decision that takes it away from us. Like, I don't want to lean into it too much, but it doesn't hurt the psychology between you, the other team, the crowd, and the referee, that you're starting to establish that we look like the top 4 team, that we look like we can get there, that we're supposed to be ahead, we're supposed to be winning, we're supposed to be getting decisions, and we are.
Yeah, and look, I mean, this is where I think also game state can matter. And like, for example, do I think that the group we had out there is well suited to playing from behind with Elneny and Xhaka in midfield and Eddie up front? And, if West Ham could sit in and defend and counterattack, like, no, I don't think that would have been ideal. But that's not what happened, right? We found a way to lead. We found a way to lead the second time, and then they had to chase the game, and that suited who we had out there. Players that could keep the ball a little bit, not a ton, but just enough. Players who could provide an outlet on the counter. That was great. I think the player, though, who stood out for me in this game maybe as having the best game of anybody. Now, I know everybody wants to pat Elneny on the back right now and Eddie Nketiah, but Clive, I think Tomiyasu is just an extraordinary shutdown defender on the right-hand side. And like, he wasn't just doing that. He was stepping around people and he was bringing the ball forward and he was passing the ball forward. But what a luxury. When you look at Nuno on the left, and he's going to have those moments, he's going to have those issues. It's not always going to be easy for him. To have someone on the right who just shuts that side down. You can't get past me. You're not getting the cross in. You're not beating me to the byline. You're not beating me to the inside. It was great to have him back. And it's good news. It sounds like that I think was just cramping up at the end there because he was holding his calf. And of course I went full whiskers. But Clive, like, what did you think of the Tomiyasu performance? Do you think it's as good as I thought? Because like, I just think if we're going to continue to play with Nuno, which is fine, being able to have that right-hand side locked down like that makes a big difference.
Yeah, Tomiyasu for me, he's close to signing of the season. If he was fit, he would already be that player for us, because I think he's just transformed us. I think he's an enabler. Homie said it before. I think he enables everything. And when you have that ability to just shut down a side, and normally a lot of teams attack left, they like to attack that side. They load up on that side. We do the same thing. And that guy needs to know his onions when it comes to defending, and he absolutely does. And what I find surprising with him, that when he does come back after layoff, he's almost exactly the same from minute one.
Yeah, that was incredible. I mean, he hasn't played.
It's just like everything's there. His technical base
I wasn't
is so
surprised,
high.
though, Clive. Do you remember the first game he played for us? He just stepped off a plane from Japan, right? He didn't know anybody.
Exactly.
He didn't speak the language. He was just ready.
He's just ready, and the only time he wasn't ready was the time when he wasn't ready, when he was injured, and we brought him back too soon, I think against Liverpool, and that was a costly mistake and something we mustn't do again. I mean, that's why we've really taken our time with him this time. He's just sharp, both feet, head up, ball's coming, he knows where it's going. First time, move it quickly, because you're giving the person who's receiving it more time on the ball. Move it sharp. Get up behind it. Don't overextend. Only overextend when you don't see anybody ahead that you need to run around on. You don't need to do it on this day because they're trying to pin you on your side and really try to affect Holding, to stay with Holding, stay alongside him. That's your game today. You know what I mean? And get Saka far away, and we try to clip Saka from the centre of the pitch or Holding directly. So he just solidifies everything. And I love looking at fullback. I love that type of fullback on one side, and I like a progress on the other side. If anything, I wanted Nuno to do more. He did one run in the second half when we were on the outside. He just pushed it and ran. I want to see more of that. He tends to want to do that more at home, and I want him to be set free. To really push teams, to really stretch teams, and to really be the chaos guy he is. Have the solid guy on the other side. But in this game, we didn't seem to want to do that. We were a little bit tentative. So. Yeah, Elliot, I think if I project forward, there are gains for that player. And he's like, I did a little tweet the other day about similarities between the City squad and our squad. And to me, he's our Kyle Walker, unbeatable defensively. He's that guy you always play in the big games defensively. But there are other games when like City would play like a Anita Shevchenko, his name is on the other side. Obviously Cancelo does it, and he's their creative attacker. But there's a time when you might need a more of an all-court creative attacking right back for when we're really good at home and we can share the games. We need one more player in there, but Tommy coming back is a blessing. We need him for Son, don't we? Let's be honest. We need him for Son. Him against Son, I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, no, I think that will make a big difference, and I think he was brilliant. 2 more points to get to before we get out of here. I think one is Gabriel Martinelli. I don't think either wide forward had a particularly fantastic game. Saka was Saka, though. I mean, he had a shot near post save that led to the corner kick that we got the second goal from. So good work by him. And Gabriel Martinelli, his delivery to Gabriel Magalhaes for the goal is brilliant. That's really, really good stuff, and we don't win the game without it. So I don't want to belittle that contribution, but Paul, I am curious your take on his involvement in general. I can understand why our left-hand side, has struggled at times to be involved, whoever it is. I mean, I think Smith Rowe, who's had a brilliant season scoring goals, has sometimes been peripheral in games. I thought Martinelli was very peripheral in this game. You can understand Odegaard's drifting to the right. Eddie Nketiah is not a facilitator per se. And Nuno is a bit of a chaos agent, to say the least. So there's less access to that left side forward than there is to the right side one. I just I don't know how to evaluate this because I thought he could give us more. I thought by the end he looked completely shagged out and didn't have anything left to give. But I'm wondering if you have a good view on his performance, because I'm not totally sure how to evaluate it. I think if I had to guess, it's probably the kind that we'll see Smith Rowe get his place back in the next game. Paul, on mute. Almost made it through the podcast.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Look, I think it's actually a conversation about Nuno at the end of the day, because the more time you're using Nuno as a wing back attacking down the wing, the more it makes sense having him on the pitch, and the more time he's spending as a defender, the less it makes sense. And if Tommy can stay fit at Tomiyasu, and you then have effectively a back 3 when you need it there with the 2 centre backs giving the platform to get Nuno forward, Xhaka spinning the ball up to him, Smith Rowe rotating into the kind of 8-10 spot there, that works. And I just don't think I've seen it work as well with Martinelli. They're almost rivals for that space. And it was, in this game, it was Nuno trying to give the width, but maybe the thing that hurt Martinelli the most was the fact what hurt everybody the most, which is the passes weren't coming, so you stopped making the runs. It was all just clunky and clogged up. I do think it was knackered at the end, and that's a good thing, because he did show his value covering that left side, and we were very secure down the Nuno side. There was one point in the first half where they had 3 guys over on Nuno's side trying to hurt us down that side. It was where they got the goal. It was where they were going to try and hurt us in the second half, as Clive rightly points out. They tended to go a bit more direct. I think they got tired, to be honest. That was a part of why we looked so secure at the end. But we also, we kept Nuno's side well nailed down, and Martinelli deserves lots of credit for that. So I can see Smith Rowe starting, and hopefully when we've gone our goal or 2 up in the second half of these games, Martinelli having a key role both on the counter, which he's obviously well suited to, and covering Nuno because he's more intense defensively, I think. Smith Rowe's disciplined and covered his spaces, but we've seen Martinelli herring around, pressing as a defender in that corner and helping keeping secure and helping stay on it. So I can see the last few games playing out with Smith Rowe getting those starts you're looking at, but maybe Martinelli coming on with 30 minutes to go. And it's really all about that rotation with Nuno, because if you're using Nuno as a full back for 80% of the game, you're probably not playing to our strengths. And if Tommy can stay fit, move everybody across the pitch. There's your three giving you stability. Xhaka as one of the pivots, covering as Nuno bombs forward and linking up hopefully with Smith Rowe. I think that's how I see it playing out.
Clive?
Yeah, I think you know I was going to say something then, didn't you? I think you read me like we're on video. Right? So no, I think there is going to be a rotation. I'm trying to work out how it's going to be. So obviously we can all see that Smith Rowe likes to drift inside, so it gives Nuno room. But I thought Martinelli had a fantastic game defensively, and Paul touched on it. Again, not every game can be the game that you want to have. Sometimes you're forced to have a game that the other team give you. And they were 3-on-2 on that side. And Martinelli had to work very hard. Xhaka had to come over late. And Martinelli had to work very hard to protect and to keep them back on that side. And I thought he did it brilliantly. Go back to Manchester United game, Paul. I know you watched it. Look how well Diego Dallo played against us. And that Smith Rowe's guy. And he couldn't catch him. He couldn't stop him. He couldn't stop him getting forward. And that game broke up on that side. And they were incredibly effective there, because Smith Rowe didn't have the energy post the game against Chelsea to do the work. We rotated him out. I see Smith Rowe playing on Sunday because we're a home game, and I think we can afford to be a bit more expressive in fullback areas. But for the away game at Spurs, I see the more secure Martinelli, he's just better defensively, more intense, more aware. Would you believe it? How many times you see him carry the ball out, touches the edge of the area, really secure, carrying it away from danger or passing away from danger, also getting out to his man quickly. It was a different game for him, but it's a game we need in this stage of the season. So the Martinelli that we grew up with 2 years ago, banging it from the edge of the area, top corner, that may not be him. He hasn't scored, I think he's got 1 goal in 16 games, something like that. I heard a stat. Elliot would no doubt check it. But he hasn't scored for a while, maybe since Watford, whipped it top bags, right? So this is what we have to do right now. And I think it's just something we have to accept and judge people in the context of the games we are watching and the stage of the season we are at. And then we can reassess at the end of the year about where they are in their development, how we field the squad, what type of player we bring in to compete, what's going to be their final position, are they going to be rotational players? And this is the fun bit in it when the season ends.
I have to say, right, I think the way we are set up right now and the structure of this team is such that whoever plays left side of the attack, Clive, is going to be a little peripheral. There's not quite the access to that side. You don't have Tierney passing to them. You don't have a left-sided 8 because Odegaard's going to be on the right mostly. You don't have a link-up striker. That's going to be a little bit of a thankless job. A lot of running up and down the touchline, a lot of pressing, and not a lot of
It varies. It varies. It varies. I mean, a few weeks ago, very short weeks ago, there was a player called Thomas Partey, was our lone midfielder, just stepping through the play, whipping it out.
I'm saying right now, the way we're right now, the way we're constructed. I'm not saying like going forward. Or so what I mean is, I think for right now, that player is going to have to just accept there's not going to be a lot of service, that it's going to be a little difficult to get the ball in those critical areas, and so like. I think whether it's Smith Rowe or Martinelli, they're going to have to press. They're going to have to run back defensively. They're going to have to look for that moment. I mean, to Martinelli's credit, he gets one moment, he puts it on the head of Gabriel, and we win the game. And Smith Rowe, I think, whether it's Smith Rowe or Martinelli, whichever player it is, I think they're going to have to find the 2 or 3 moments where they can influence the game and take advantage of it. I don't think they're going to have the service they need to be in the game regularly. And with Leeds coming up, Clive, like, we haven't had a game like this in a while. I guess Brighton at home was the last one. You know, a home game where we're going to be pretty big favorites, but a team that, I mean, look, Leeds last 5 results, if you forget the 4-0 they just lost to City, draw with Palace away, 3-0 victory over Watford away, draw with Southampton at home, 3-2 victory over Wolves away, 2-1 victory over Norwich at home. Now, I'm not saying that makes them the greatest team ever, but this is not the Leeds of a few months ago when they were losing by 5s and 6s. So do you have a sense of what it's going to take to, I mean, I almost get the sense that this team benefits from not being the big favorite with the expectations to go do it. And we're going to find ourselves back in that situation in a weekend where Spurs go to Anfield. And I mean, Clive, this is the whole season in a sense, because if Liverpool just do their job, please, Liverpool, just do your job, and they beat Spurs, and we can find a way past Leeds, We literally are in a situation where in a worst case scenario, the derby doesn't matter. It doesn't. I mean, it always matters. It's a derby, but you see what I'm saying? So how do we approach this? Because I think psychologically, it's a very, very tricky situation.
Yeah, it's tricky, right? But everyone's going to be bouncing. It's going to be a sunny day on Sunday, and we'll know a lot more than we know right now because don't count out Spurs and Liverpool, I'm afraid. So don't count them out. But we're hoping Liverpool do their bits, as you say. But what I will say, that Leeds will have to play us because Burnley and Everton have found form. They will have to play. And that means we can move through the pitch. And the pitch was small at the weekend, but the pitch will be bigger in this game because I think they'll naturally want to come on to us, which means we can naturally play through. Right, so that's how I see the game going. It's about execution, first goal. We don't want to give them anything to chew on, right? We can't give them something to chew on. They're not a low block team anyway, but you don't want to give a team that's desperate something to hold on to, And so yeah, we just got to do our work. We got to do our work. We got to execute. And I'm a little bit worried about Saka. Actually, I think he's always fantastic, but it comes to
taking a toll. Maybe?
Yeah, I think so. He's barely finishing games. He's always slow off the ground. That's a good sign of fatigue. I'm a little bit worried about that. Now, what will we do? We've got a big game against Spurs in the next few days. I'm not saying there could be a time just to have a think about it. I know people are going to say, you're crazy. We need to beat Leeds. And it's about resting people. It's also about protecting people. If he's on the edge of something, we need to do something about it. Because Spurs, we're going to need him for definite. So let's see what happens this weekend. I sense a little bit of freshening up. We look like the team that played in Europe on Sunday. That's an honest to God's truth at stages. We look fatigued. We look slow in our minds. I couldn't believe it. Was that my nerves? I don't know. But we didn't look fresh. So we got a good gap now before we go into the final phase. And so, yeah, I think just watch the space on that one there. It looks like he's carrying something.
Can I ask?
I would love it. Please ask away.
Is it just me? Because you're in the Discords and the social medias and stuff. I know he didn't have a breakout game. I thought Saka looked pretty good in this. I thought he looked.
I thought he was great. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's not critiquing performance, Paul. More the fatigue angle. Yeah, more the fatigue angle.
But like that plays into it, doesn't it? I mean, I think we're managing him by getting him off with a little time before the end. I fully hear what you say, Clive. But when I look at him, like I think he's even in the games recently where we're like, well, it wasn't as a breakout a game for like he's just so good, and I guess I'm hoping my eye is right that he's not. We use him a lot, but he looks okay to me. He looks okay.
He's played every game this season so far, every league game so far, right? And given the fact he went to Euros and literally had the last kick of the Euros, so he barely had a break, came off the bench against Brentford about 20 minutes later after Euros finished, right? So that's an issue for me. But also, I'm not just watching, I'm listening as well.
But are we seeing it on the pitch? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm listening really as well to the interviews. And Arteta said, Saka had a problem before this game. He had a bit of a problem before this game. And he always plays. Right? And I'm always happy to see him there. But I'm just wondering, we're coming to... Hey, look, I'm nervous, right? We're coming to... We're one game before...
Leave that to me, buddy.
we got Leeds coming up. And we got Spurs the game after. I don't want Saka missing that Spurs game. Because do you know what I'm saying? I can't have that. We have to sort them out. There is no... And we're not going to sort them out without him. Right, so
but then I want to go into the game with the 3 points from Leeds.
I absolutely do. I'm just saying. Yeah, I'm not saying. Well, basically, I want my cake and eat it. I want him rested, and I want him available for Spurs. I can't have that, right? And I want all the points in the bag, right? So that's what I really want. But I can't quite say that. Yeah. But I just want to make sure that he's right for that game, because when we pop into their manner, we need to deal with them once and for all, and we're going to need Bukayo Saka to do that.
It's going to be bittersweet when Spurs do qualify for the Champions League at the end of this season, but only because they finished fourth, we finished third, and Chelsea finished fifth. So that's going to be an interesting twist nobody saw coming as they continue to not not do well. Anyway, yeah, we'll have more on the fixtures that are coming up because like it's a 7:45 p.m. kickoff at Anfield on Saturday. That seems weird, but that's what it is. And then we go the next day.
Yeah, it's a good thing. BT have moved that slot from the morning to the night and not before time. For teams that are playing in Europe in the week. Why are you doing that? You can't have those top teams playing in Europe and you're getting there Saturday morning. Liverpool had to play Saturday morning against Newcastle. That's criminal. Absolutely criminal after playing a European Cup semi-final in the week on a Wednesday.
The Premier League's always been shit about protecting.
We gotta stop this. We really do. And we got done with the Chelsea Man United on a Saturday morning slot. Why can't that be Saturday night? It makes such a difference. The game ended up being brilliant, but it makes such a difference to the quality of the game. Liverpool just got over the line against Newcastle. If they didn't win that game, I'd be asking serious questions about TV scheduling. I really would. But let's get past one of my hobby horses.
Well, let's hope that they get the feeling of a big European night on Saturday night, and it spurs them to, no pun intended, a heroic performance, a 10-0 over Tottenham. Get that goal difference closer. That'd be helpful. Look, we got plenty more we can cover, and I am barely clinging to health right now, so we should probably knock this one on the head. Paul's on Twitter, Pause My Pants. Thanks, Pause.
Yes.
There it is. Clive's on Twitter, Clive BFC. Thanks, Clive.
Thank you very much.
My name is Elliot Smith, the Black Man Twitter. You're going to send us those reviews, get the reviews in, send me the screenshot on email or DM or whatever. We'll get you into the drawing, and sometime next week we'll do the drawing for a couple free years of Patreon. So that'll be a lot of fun. We love you. Thank you so much for being here. And we all just cross our fingers and toes and everything else and try to get our way through these squeaky bum games, these next few of them, and hopefully have a big, big celebration at the end of the season. We love you, and we will talk to you after Arsenal 10 leads them.